Thank you, Melanie and Jay. I appreciate that introduction and hitting the record button. I remember this from office hours, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So it's great to be here, and I really do appreciate being invited to this session with the MCSA. Andy Coop, I am the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, at least for a few more days, and I'm going to be taking over another leadership position within the school. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still involved heavily in the MCST program. You know, when we started this program years ago, I sat down with the then Dean, Dean Eddington, and I don't know if you guys know this story, but I wasn't involved with this program. I wasn't. And the dean came to me and said, you know, we have this syllabus for MCST 602, and it's awful. We are teaching them second messages and beta arrestings and all this stuff. And I think it's awful. And I took one look at it and I said, these guys don't even know what a protein is coming in. Which of course you now see the very first assignment in MCST 602, right? And the way I approached that was I looked at it because I was thinking about you guys. And the way I was thinking about you guys was really thinking about a jury in an expert witness. There's a reason I'm telling my story like this. And it was really thinking and using my experience of talking to juries and talking to lawyers and talking to decision makers. And they come with their biases and they've got their experience. They're educated, very educated, but educated in different areas. They've got their own biases. They're coming with stigma. They're coming with, oh, it's marijuana. Oh, nasty. And they're coming with all this. And you've really got to think about from the other side. And that's how I was thinking about when we created this program. I was thinking about you guys. And, you know, in the end of the day, I was actually pretty right that we have such a diverse set of individuals with a range of backgrounds. And that's how you've got to think about it when you want to be an expert witness. Now, there's a couple of things I do want to cover tonight. I don't have any slides. Sorry, I don't do slides when I can avoid it. No, there's two things I want to cover tonight. And by the way, three things with you asking me as many questions as you want. First one would be, how do you go about becoming an expert witness? The second is, once you do become an expert witness, what's it like? What do you need to consider? What do you need to do? What's it involve? And of course, then the third thing is taking questions from you. As I was preparing tonight, over the last couple of weeks thinking about this, I thought to myself, how did I go about becoming an expert witness? And the answer is, I didn't. I fell into it. Now, looking back on it, there were many things I did that were correct that I didn't know I was doing. And I'm going to share those with you. There were several things I could have done that I didn't. And again, I'll share those things with you. But I think one of the things I did was I actually Googled how to become an expert witness. Sorry, you could do the same thing, right? Very easily. Because I was like, there's my opinion, but let's see what other people, and I'm going to put something in chat. Can I put something in chat and I'll send it afterwards so you've all got it. I found this YouTube video and I'll send it later to the chat. Now, this YouTube video is about 10 minutes long that I've just put in chat. And it is effectively a guy trying to sell his own expert witness directory. However, so that's like the last 3 or 4 minutes of it. But the first about 6 or 7 minutes of it is actually very, very good. So if there's one thing to take away from tonight is to watch that first 7 or so minutes of that video. You can watch the last 3 minutes if you want. It's just him selling his own directory. But please, it's a short watch, but it's actually very, very good. And a lot of the things he says in that video are the things I'll cover tonight. So there's a few things. When we're talking about expert witness, let me ask you guys a question. Why do you want to do it? Anyone, someone answer me. Someone answer me. So I'm not just me talking. Why do you want to do it?
I think to educate Dr. Coop, to get the real, data and information out there and update people, because I don't think that they are as current as we are academically and professionally.
Okay, fantastic, Karen. Anyone else?
I hear that you can make a lot of money as an expert witness.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Bethany.
What? You've met me. Come on, girl.
Never, money is not a dirty word. Okay. And we're doing this for various reasons. We're doing it for issues like Karen says. We're doing this to make sure that justice is done. Right? Let's be honest. But we're also doing it to make money. So we've got to remember everything. Daniel, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna throw one at you guys. When I was graduated college 100 years ago, got pulled over by a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out he just sat outside of this bar and was just pulling people over, trying to get as many DUI arrests as he could. So he took me downtown. I blew a .02 and a .034. Then they give you a urinalysis.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you know what happens when you don't pass the urinalysis?
Mm-hmm.
They try to charge you with a DUI.
Right.
So I got bull skirted, excuse my almost language, and had to hire an attorney. They said, okay, tell you what, we're going to put you through the DUI course. We're going to put you through the drug course. We're going to make you do 100 hours of community service. We're going to make you pay all this money. We could quantify this test, but it's expensive. So if you'll do all these other things, then we'll drop the charges. So I got a little personal agenda.
Understood. And Daniel, that gets into several of my questions here, and this is what I want to cover. Is one of the things I was asked tonight to become an expert witness. We've got to remember that we have both civil cases and criminal cases. Both civil cases, sorry to throw fists at you, I'm sorry. But both civil cases and criminal cases need expert witnesses, because if we want to make sure that these procedures, these trials occur to ensure that we know the truth and our expertise in this area, we've got to think about both civil and criminal. Now, with cannabis, what folks have generally thought about over the last several years is criminal, whether it be driving under the influence, things like this. But as we move forward with medical cannabis, the rescheduling, the number of civil cases are going to increase. Now, civil cases are nowhere near as exciting as criminal cases, and I'll talk about both tonight as an expert witness. But this is why, when I'm asking you, why do you want to do this? Yes, we want to make sure justice is done. We want to make sure both sides are fair. We want to make sure that everyone is given the best of our expertise to ensure that justice is done. We don't want someone wrongfully accused. We don't want someone railroaded. We want to make sure everything's done correctly. But you've got to think to yourself, there's both civil and criminal. Now, civil cases, there are a lot of civil cases. And with the change in the scheduling, there's going to be more. Some of those, and I've done both, by the way, I've done both. Some of those are very boring. It could be writing a report. It's generally what we call patent busting. Someone has a brand name drug and someone wants to create a generic and the generic company wants to bust the patent. It's very specific and they need your expertise. But whether it's both civil or criminal, remember there's two sides. And both sides have expert witnesses. And this is where, when I come down to ask you, why do you want to do this? And Karen's answer first gets into what I was going to say. And then, of course, there is making money. But at times, these two things can actually be against each other. Because if you want to make money, and you can make a lot of money from expert witnessing, and a side comes to you and says, we're looking for an expert witness in this area to whatever they're asking for, bust this pattern. What if you don't agree with that side? Does making money trump your own ethics? And that's where, exactly, I see people shaking their heads. And that's where, when I say, why do you want to get into this? There's nothing wrong with getting into this for making money. There isn't. But we have to be ethical. We have to go with what we think is correct. I have done and before I get into how you promote yourself and all that sort of stuff, and the video I've sent you is actually wonderful for a lot of this, but it doesn't really get into this, the video. It doesn't get into this deep. Because hopefully you guys, even the first years here that have only had me for like one course, the second years have had me for a ton of courses. I approach everything I do from here, and I have turned expert witness down because I don't agree with what they're saying. I have also, having said that there's no issue with making money, I've also taken on expert witness cases free and not charged them because I thought it was the right thing to do. So when I ask you, why do you want to do this? And Karen spoke up, sorry to call you out, Karen. Karen spoke up first. That's the thing to remember, but also balance it about, yes, you want to make money. Of course you want to make money. We're a capitalist country. But you've got to be true to yourself. Bottom line, by the way, is if you're not true to yourself, they're going to see through it. They're going to see through it. And you're not going to be a good expert witness. Doesn't matter how bright you think you are. Doesn't matter how bright I think I am. If I'm not telling what I think is true, people are going to see through it. They're brighter than me, far brighter than I am. So that's the first thing to bear in mind is, why do you want to do it? Make sure it's something you want to do. Second, if you really want to get into expert witness, are there any lawyers on the call? Are there any lawyers on the call? Well, there might be lawyers watching the video, so I've got to be a little careful. Have any of you been involved, maybe as a juror or in a, yes, I see Dustin waving. I see Yamila waving. If you've been in a criminal, been in the courtroom, and I have many times, it isn't like Law and Order, okay? Not at all. But at the same time, the other side, and by the way, I'm always on the side of truth, so it's not, but I'm usually, paid by one side. The other side are usually trying to poke holes in what I'm saying, which is fine. You know, you poke holes in what I say, that's fine. But there are times when they can't poke holes in what I'm saying. So what do they try? And if they can't attack what I'm saying and they can't attack my facts, what do you think they attack? Yes, me. So it's done very nicely. It's not like Law and Order. It's done very nicely and very politely, but they're attacking you. And I've been asked, for instance, Dr. Coop, you are a member of the College on Problems of Drug Dependence. Yeah. You've been on all these committees and chaired committees there. Yeah. It is the oldest organization in the United States focused on treating the problems of drug abuse and dependence. Yeah. Well, how can you give my client a fair trial? What do you think of folks who abuse drugs? Right? What do I think of folks who abuse drugs? I've been asked that. You can look it up. It's on a trial. And that's quite a mild one. But there's been times when this has been asked. So what that means is this, guys, for all of you, is if you really want to do the expert witness, you've really got to lead with, again, Karen's blanked herself out, but you've really got to lead with what Karen said. Because if you're not doing this for the right reasons, if you're just doing this for a paycheck, you're not going to take that. If you're doing this for the right reasons, it doesn't matter what they throw at you because you're doing it for the right reasons. And that's the best way of doing it. If you are coming from a point of view where you have a problem, we're all different. You know, I've said this to all of you, we're all different, right? And that's fine. But if you're the sort of person who can't take criticism, or that's going to knock you off your game, or you really can't, you need practice, by the way, to get over that. That's the best way of doing it. Because I tell you, like, it doesn't knock me off my game. Of course it knocks me off my game. Of course, if one of you students criticizes me in a class, I don't like it, right? Doesn't mean I haven't got the professional and I keep going. But if you're not willing to do that, in the video, he actually puts this nicely. He's like, you've got to be thick-skinned. It's what the guy in the video that I posted in the chat said. You've got to be thick-skinned. And that's something else. It's like what we said for the guys that have taken the advocacy course and you first years who haven't taken the, or maybe you haven't taken an elective, right? People are going to knock you back. People are going to like dish you. People are not going to pay attention. You've got to get yourself up, dust yourself off and move on. And to do the expert witness, you've really got to have that ethical me approach, because otherwise you're not going to want to do it and you're not going to be great at it. So having said all these negatives, I'm sorry, but yeah, hopefully you guys get to know me by now, is I absolutely love doing it. Absolutely. I don't do civil anymore, but at any time a criminal contacts me, I jump at the chance. One is I want to make sure that justice is done with all the expertise I've got. Two, this country has been really good to me. I want to give back to this country. And three, I love it. I actually love, and I'll put it this way, and I know I'm being taped, so recorded, sorry. I love the game. Because that's what it is. It's a game. And that's after everything I've just said to you, the way to get through this is to think of it as a game. They're doing their job. You're doing your job. At the end of the day, you could end up in a bar having a beer together. It's not personal. You're all just doing the game. And that's the way to view it. Now, it's not a game. Don't get me wrong. It's not a game. We have multi-billion dollars on the line. We have people's freedom online. We have people's lives online. But the way to approach it and the way to think about it in your head in terms of being an expert witness is like being a game. Now, how do you become an expert witness? I fell into it. That video I posted actually has a really good set of things. Now, what the guy on that video is doing is hawking his own directory. There are a lot of directories, and you can do a quick Google search for like expert witness directory. And you will find there's a whole load of them. And you have to pay. And you can pay to have your listing with your specialty. Now, how good they are, I don't know. I'll tell you that. And this is one of the reasons I'm not going to. There's a load of them. You can do quick Google your search yourself. I don't want to give you one because then you might think I think that's better than the others. I don't know. But they are there. And there's some free ones as well. But I think this is like anything in life. You get what you pay for. So I really think you might want to look at those directory listings. But I never did that. But it really depends on how serious you want to be at getting your name out there. Now, other ways of getting your name out there is to actually network. Get yourself out to meetings. Talk to folks. The reason I am an expert witness for the US Department of Justice is because I went to meetings, and in the areas of research in drugs of abuse, the DEA are often viewed as the enemies. And a lot of the basic scientists view, and the clinical scientists view the DEA as like the enemy, the administration getting in my way, stopping me do things. Now, I'm not like that. These folks are just doing their job. So all my colleagues didn't speak to the DEA folks. So knowing me as well as you do, what do you think I did? I walked up to them and chatted to them. They got to know me. Talking to me, networking is what I'm telling you here. Within speaking to me for a few, maybe I don't know how many days, it was like they're obviously dropping things to see how I explain stuff. And one of them turned to me and said, I think you'd be good at explaining stuff to a jury. I said, whatever. I'm not, yeah. I got invited. And that's how I got involved with doing my federal criminal trials. Simply because I approached people that other people didn't. At the same time, they saw something in me that you need in you. Is that if you're going to do federal trials like this, to talking to jurors, it gets back to my original comment when I started this talk 20 minutes ago about thinking about your audience. You really got to think about your audience. You've got to think about those 12 plus 2 alternates sat over there in the box. Because although you're explaining a complicated system, whether it's be what a damn inverse agonist at CB1 receptors does, right? Let's be honest, there you go. That's actually needs to be explained, right? You've got to explain it in a way that the jurors understand it. And even more importantly, trust you. Trust you. I've seen many expert witnesses, like absolutely intelligent, super intelligent folks, men and women. And they, and I'm like, oh my God, they know far more about that topic than I do. But that's because I know a fair bit about the topic. They're talking to folks that know very little about the topic, completely over their heads. And this is where you've got to really think about communication to individuals. And, you know, a vast majority of the members of the jury on these trials, we're talking high school education, maybe a bit of college education. And that's where you've got to really think about how to explain stuff to these individuals without talking down to them. And if you're ever in that situation, I can't do it tonight on Zoom, but I'll give you one little trick. When you're on that stand, make eye contact with each and every single person. Make eye contact with each and every single one of them. Naturally, don't stare at them, but you know, just make sure it's amazing the number of expert witnesses that will wither on and not read the room and not look at them. And read the jurors. If you see them pulling faces or, you know, read their faces and adapt what you're saying based on their faces. You'll be nervous as hell. You will be nervous, but you are the expert. Now, let's get back again, networking. But the networking doesn't help unless you actually are an expert, right? So how do you prove you're an expert? Being in this program, fantastic. This credential shows you're an expert. But you also need more than that. You need to consider giving talks at national meetings. Not only does that expand your CV, because you need to expand your CV, you need a fantastic CV. Not only does that expand your CV, you don't know who's in the audience watching you. You really don't know who's in the audience watching you. The reason I got invited to testify down at the Senate is because I was given a talk and the ex-director of NIDA was in the audience. That's how I got invited to the Senate. The ex-director of NIDA was in the audience. I've now found out how it happened. I didn't know at the time. The ex-director of NIDA said, hey, this guy will be good to bring down to the Senate. That's how it happened. I didn't go about it. So you don't know who's going to be in the audience. So you need to get out there and give talks. This doesn't necessarily have to be at like scientific meetings. I've actually found giving talks at things like Rotary clubs. You might think giving a talk at a Rotary club and the equivalence of Rotary clubs is like, well, I'm only talking to a few business leaders from the, you know, from the local community. Those business leaders know people. So give those talks, expand your CV, and make sure you also, when you're at that Rotary club or when you're at that conference giving that talk, you don't just give your talk and run off. You're actually there talking to people, networking with people. That's one of the most critical ways of doing things. Now, whether things like posting something on LinkedIn, social media, I'll let you guys talk about that. You know, I've got a LinkedIn site. I don't know what to do with it. People keep inviting friendships. I don't know what to do. Whether things like social media sites work, I don't know. That's beyond me. Maybe that's for you to discuss. The directories I mentioned, giving talks, CV, publishing articles. Now, you might think it's hard to publish an article, and it is, but that's why I'm here to help. I worked with some colleagues recently on an article about the class-wide scheduling of the fentanyls. I know it's not cannabis, it's opioids, but we published an article in a scientific magazine. It's called Drug and Alcohol Dependence, on how the class-wide scheduling of the fentanyls was a bad idea. My co-author, not me, but my co-author was then invited down to DC to actually testify about this in terms of the new regulations of the class-wide scheduling of fentanyls. So what we wrote was seen. You're not going to get everything. I didn't get invited down. She did. I'm fantastic. Her name's Sandy. She's wonderful. She got invited down. So you're not going to get invited down every time, but you need these articles because that also builds up your CV. You really need to build up that CV. You really need to be the expert. This credential in medical cannabis science and therapeutics puts you ahead of almost everyone else in the country. But you also need to do more than that and do these credentials. I made a list of stuff. Sorry, credentials, in person, give the talks. Oh, one thing no one talks about. Ask me that when I get asked to do it and I don't want to do it, I'll suggest you. Right? I've got like 3 jobs. I don't need to do it anymore. I do the criminal. I don't do the civil anymore. But if I get invited for a civil case, I write back, no, sorry, but try Chris Cunningham at Concordia and Susan Mercer at Nashville. This is what I do. I write back and I don't just say no. I suggest people. And I suggest people I trust and I know will do a good job. So ask people like me who don't want to do it anymore or are more focused on something else to refer to you. You're all welcome to ask me because I'm going to get 100 asks now, but that's fine. But this is something, don't be scared. Also, asking me to refer you when I get asked and I don't want to do it. And it's not because I don't want to do it. Maybe I just, I just don't have time. I just do not focus that anymore. There's nothing wrong with you. And the guy says this in the video, actually, reaching out to lawyers. Nothing wrong with you reaching out to regulatory agencies like the Department of Justice, DEA, and telling them that you're available. What are you going to lose? What's the worst thing that could happen if you reach out and say, I'm available for an expert witness? What's the worst thing that could happen? They ignore you. And what have you lost? More than likely, they'll ignore it. And then when something comes up, they'll go, oh, I remember. That person reached out to me. There's nothing wrong with direct reaching out. We're often scared of that because we're scared of rejection, right? So I always approach this from, I am going to be rejected. And when I get accepted, I'm going to be happy. So view it like that, is expect that you don't get a reply. But you know what? Those emails don't go. They don't delete them. They keep them just in case, because they're not going to stop just in case. In case they ever need you, they're going to put this to one side in case they ever need you. So that's another one that they actually talked about. The other thing, by the way, is the popular press, the mainstream media. If you can get articles in the popular press, the mainstream media, I know that's hard. But again, talking to reporters is just like talking to these other people. You can always ask. You can always pitch a story idea. You've got to be your own advocate. You've got to promote yourself. And it's the culture we live in. And if you're worried that I'm too self-promoting, you're probably not self-promoting enough. And I would suggest to you that you do promote yourself even further. I'm going through my list and I'm just getting towards the end of my list. I've done enough talking, so I'll open it up for questions. Is that okay? Hopefully I've covered enough stuff. I've got some more stuff, but let's open it up for questions. I've done enough talking.
Yes, thanks so much for that game that you just gave us, Dr. Coop. Everyone that's in the chat, if you want to enter any questions into the chat, I'll read them off. You can raise your hand. I'm monitoring the chat. As Dr. Coop said, you all can fire away.
I'm not much of a chatter, so I'm gonna go ahead and just holler at Dr. Coop. That's okay.
Daniel, how did I guess?
You a damn lie. You are a chatter. Anyway,
I'm a verbal chatter. I'm not your
you a
generation.
damn lie. Anyway,
No, first of all, let me be the first to say, Doc, will you refer me? No, I'm joking. No, but I'm not. But my question is
No,
this:
you know.
how will we know we're ready? How
Okay.
will we know that we're ready? And I mean, I feel like, because listen, hey, I've already reached. You talk to my ball game. I've been knocked down already 5 times already. I've reached out to the top attorneys, DUI attorneys in town. Nothing, crickets. I even reached out to the public defender's office and volunteered to do it for free.
Right. Couple of things, Daniel.
Yes.
You are ready. It's like anything else in life. When you think you're ready, it's too late.
Thanks.
Like anything else in life. Second, let me look at your CV. I am more than willing, if you guys would like me to look at your CVs. Maybe there's something on your CV that looks a bit like I've done enough of this. I'm not them, but I've done enough where my CV's gone for them that I've got feedback. Don't do this, Andy. Do this, Andy. Right. So I have no issues if we have a way of me reviewing your CVs. Not a problem. Second, they may just not have the cases. Being knocked back 5 times, is that all?
Oh yeah, I'm just getting started.
I know, no, and I'm joking around a little, Daniel, but you've been knocked 5 times. Okay, all right, come back when you've been knocked back 20. That's sort of the approach to take. Is this is not something that you should give up easily. It's just like everything else in cannabis. We have to keep at it. The individuals may not have the cases where they need your expertise, or it could be something in your CV that they think, oh, is not really, that it's not been pushed. So let me read your CVs. I don't mind giving that. I don't mind reading a couple of hundred CVs of every student in the program. I do that. What's a weekend to me? Wanda can look after the dogs. So, I mean, let's do that. But yes, bottom line, if you start doubting yourself, remember what I've said. When you think you're ready, it's too late. Just keep going ahead. And it's not you, it's them. You just keep promoting yourself. I see more chats, but I also see Jasmine's got a hand up. Who should I go with next?
I think Christy's question might have been first.
Okay, I'm trying to keep track.
Can you see it? You want me to read it off for you? I got it in front of me.
Okay, is there an elective? I can see it. Yep,
Okay.
I got it. Thanks. Is there an elective you would recommend outside educational opportunity pairs to be expert witnesses? For a person, hold up, there's an answer there. From a personal experience of being witness for work, great speaking is a great skill. You should consider that, yes. The reply is perfect. It's all about public speaking. You've really got to think about the audience, about how to communicate these facts with the audience, while at the same time being so anxious and nervous that you can't think about anything else but yourself. And that's the experience. That is one of the biggest things I would say to you is you can't think about the audience correctly and explain things to the audience correctly if you're suffering from fear of public speaking anxiety. So your IQ goes down, you know, all this sort of stuff, right? So my call for you to help you with the expert witness, you've got to get your foot over the door in there with the CV and the networking and all that stuff. But to do a good job, it's the public speaking. Now, no one taught me how to do public speaking. People say I can do it because I take these pauses and I repeat myself and all this sort of stuff. People tell me, oh, that's great, Andy, you're doing the right thing. And it's just me, right? But people tell me that's the right way because I take these pauses, and even though my accent's all weird and stuff, it gives you time to catch up with what I'm saying. Whereas other folks and can't catch up. So you've really got to think about how you present and who you're presenting to. So to answer your question, the answer you got from the fellow student, I can't see who it is, my eyesight's awful, is exactly what it is. It's public speaking. Because that's what it is. And also, you're going to be asked questions that, again, you need to be thick-skinned on. So you've got to not only public speaking, but you also want to be practiced in having people ask you questions that are sort of oddball questions, or even questions that sort of might be a little personal to you. So just get used to doing that. It's hard. And to ask an audience to ask you questions that are inappropriate. I actually, for the pharmacy students, I actually run a course for the pharmacy students. I created it a few years ago with this, and I play an audience member and I just make up the most silly questions. I pretended to be a vaccine denier, you know, and gave them a hard time about vaccines and stuff, just to give them a hard time and see how they'd react. And again, they didn't like it. Well, they did afterwards. It was good fun. But see how they'd react to a vaccine denier, things like this. So I do things like that. So if you could find a communication course like that, but also get out there and practice. Toastmasters, absolutely. Whoever wrote Toastmasters, absolutely. Toastmasters is fantastic if you can do that. But this is another reason why to do things like the Rotary clubs. By the way, Rotary clubs, if you've ever been to one, they're a bit conservative, I know. But you know, whenever I go to talk about cannabis at Rotary clubs, usually my topic is what is CBD and what is like Delta 8, Delta 10, H, you know, those things, that just to tell them about this. You might think that the Rotary clubs come to you and like, oh, they don't want to hear about it. No, afterwards, nearly all of them come to me and say, oh, I use CBD on my knees. And they really want to talk to you about it. That is another place where you can get that experience. They're usually small crowds, very supportive. They want good speakers because they get awful speakers a lot of the time. And that's another place you could practice, and you're going to get off the cuff comments because you don't know what you're going to get. So do practice at things like at Rotary clubs. That's what I'd suggest you do. Okay, who was next? Jay, you're keeping me on track, right?
Yes, sir. Jasmine has a hand up. So we took someone from the chat. So let's let Jasmine go. Jasmine, if you want to go ahead with your question.
Sure thing. I had two questions, but to just kind of make them brief, what does preparation look like? So if you reach out to them and they say yes, or if they reach out to you and you say yes, is there some sort of like interview or prep that happens before going in there that kind of gives you an idea of what to expect, or they just want you to show up when the time comes?
Okay. All right. If somebody just wants you to show up on the time, they're not doing their job. Okay. They want to, if they're doing their job correctly, they will make sure you're completely prepped. And by the way, you charge for all that prep time. You charge for all that prep time. They will prep you. If they don't prep you, they're not doing their job. They will spend time with you. They could well want to report. They should spend time with you online discussing the case. They should spend time with you discussing what they'd like you to, what the kid, well, not what they'd like you to say, but what they'd like you to cover. They can't tell you what to say, obviously, right? Often you'd write a report. Sometimes, actually, in criminal trials, some lawyers like to actually go through absolutely everything, like a dress rehearsal. They will tell you they want to go through a dress rehearsal, like what are you going to say? And again, that is for them to give you feedback on, like, well, you said it like this. And again, it's to give you feedback on how maybe to phrase it in a different way, not to tell you what to say, but to how to phrase it for the jury. The very first time I did a trial, the very first time, the trial attorney I had, she didn't want to do that. She wanted to go more freewheeling. And apparently I did so well that every attorney since has just followed the same. By the way, attorneys talk to attorneys. Once you've done one, they all talk to each other. That's the other thing to bear in mind. They all talk to each other. That's how I get all these now, is they talk to each other. So they will prep you 100%. And if they don't prep you, they're not doing their job. To answer your question?
Yes, that does. And to sneak the second one in really quick, what are some common misconceptions or myths about cannabis that often arise in these legal proceedings?
Oh, oh. Everything you've thought of, the stigma, only certain demographics really take cannabis. You can be addicted to cannabis, weak-willed, everything you can think about in terms of people don't understand it. The other thing is you've got to remember that you guys, even think about when I started 602, right? I don't have to tell you that CBD is not THC, right? Now, I do talk about the differences, right? But I don't have to tell you that CBD is not THC, right? As far as they're concerned, they've got no idea. They've got no idea. So that's the other thing to bear in mind, is they've got no idea about the plant. They've got no idea. They've just heard all these things. Psychotic episodes are increasing. It's just everything you could think of someone like your grandmother's days. I'll pick on people's grandmothers. I'm picking on my grandmother. She can't defend herself because she's dead, but I'll pick on my grandmother. Everything she'd have thought about, that people who take cannabis are like Shaggy off Scooby-Doo. They're just complete dope heads. These are the sort of things you see. These are the sort of things you deal with. Just like when you're advocating with lawmakers, they just don't realize the medical benefits of cannabis, and they just don't see it. Is that okay? You've got to think about it from their point of view, right? Think about it from their point of view. All right, let's take another one from chat. Is that okay? Where's Jay gone? There he is. He's moved to color. Yeah, next one.
So David Cooper asks a similar question. What do you think will be some of the most common subjects we might advise on as the field expands?
As the field expands, we're going to get driving under the influence. We're going to get, we are going to get, as products start coming, even in Schedule 3, we're going to get patent busting cases. We're going to get cases along the lines of were the regulatory, like 609, basically, did we do all the analysis correctly? And here is the analysis. Is this what it claims to be? And we're going to need folks that can look at, for the folks who haven't done MCST 609, it's the analytical, we just finished it. We're going to have folks that say, like, here's the analysis. What is this product? Or we're going to have, and that's going to be in a lot of things. It really is. So I think we're going to get patent busting. I think we're going to get a lot of under the influence. That's where we're going with The other thing is most of my cannabis expert witness is actually the illicit synthetics, the JWH series. And the reason I do those is because as soon as you make one Schedule 1, you change your methyl group or you add a chlorine, it's a different compound, it's not scheduled. And this is what's happening if you think about what's happening with Delta 8, Delta 10, HHC. Delta 8, Delta 10 are both isomers. HHC is not an isomer. So if you brought a law in that isomers should be scheduled, well, HHC is not an isomer, right? So we are going to need folks to keep up as the law with Substance Abuse Analog Act. Like the stuff I do with the JWH series, this is going to be needed with the next whatever analog, whether with Delta, I'll say Delta 8, Delta 10, HCC, THC, all the new ones that come that get around the scheduling, we're going to need folks to do the substance abuse analog to show that they are substantially chemically similar and substantially pharmacologically similar. There's some things I see coming. I'm sure there's going to be others as well. We're also going to have deaths, and we're going to have folks looking at blood levels and did cannabis contribute to it. Now, whether you thought cannabis did contribute to it or not, we're going to need someone to say it was cannabis in the blood. Now, you're not saying whether it contributed or not. You're just saying whether cannabis was there. So these are the sort of things that are gonna come up. That's my prediction anyway.
Thank you.
Next, I saw a hand, Akila. Akila, floor is yours.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Coop. I actually never really thought of myself as a candidate to be an expert witness previously, but now after tonight, I think that possibly I could be. And my question is, in your career, because my background is in birth and working with pregnant populations, and in your career, have you either served as an expert witness or come across any cases that had to do with somebody that was pregnant or like a death of a baby or anything? Have you seen any of those cases in your career?
Before I answer your question, you made a statement like, I've never thought of myself as an expert witness, but after today, you said, is that what you said? Am I paraphrasing you a little bit? Yes.
That's what I said.
Let's remove all those negative words. Okay. You never thought about yourself as an expert witness, but after today, you are confident you will be. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now, no, I've actually steered well clear away from pregnancy. It is something that I'm not an expert on, and I've steered well clear away from that. The only thing close I've done with that was my colleague was actually involved, and when I say close, I mean the ethics here. He was actually involved with expert witness about which chemicals should be used to put people to death in the death penalty. You can get really into huge ethical areas, and this is where you can really get into these areas. You really got to want to do it. Now, I don't want to get involved. I don't think I could keep myself emotionally detached enough to be able to deal with pregnancy and this. So I don't think I could do that. So I haven't. Now, having said that, there are individuals because, of course, the mother taking drugs, the fetus is exposed to the drugs. And of course, this is a huge, huge issue. If you need me to put you in contact with people, I just haven't done it. I just don't have the separation to do that. But if you want me to put you in contact with people who do that, I do know colleagues who do that, and they have my utmost respect, and I'll put you in touch. Sound like a deal?
Sounds like a deal. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Again, you've got to go with you. I couldn't see how my buddy did the death sentence drugs. I really couldn't, and I just can't deal with no preterm. No, I just can't. Oof. I just something I can't do. So you've got to go with what you feel and what you want to do. It's not all about making money, Daniel. So where's Daniel gone? I'm giving Daniel a hard time.
No, sir, I promise you that I'm just like you when you told me that.
No, I know I'm giving you a hard time, Daniel.
No, I know that. I know that, but I promise you.
All right.
Pat,
All right. Let's
hey,
do the next
if I
one.
run ethical, I'd be a millionaire right now.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's do the next one on the chat and then we'll go to the one. So once we get our foot in the door, what are some suggestions on how best to prepare for a civil criminal case? Okay. Practice, practice, practice. You are the expert. There's very little they can ask you that you probably don't know. I often put myself in the other side, which is, here is what I am going to say. I know where the biggest holes or the least strong I am in terms of my argument. If they're bright, they're also going to know where the weakest parts of my argument are. So what I do is I focus on the weakest parts of my argument. And I also think about both sides of an expert witness. If I was on the other side, even though I don't agree with them, what would I be arguing? And when even though I don't agree, I can intellectually see what they would argue. And then I address that from my side so they don't even get the chance to address that. So that's the way I think about it, is I think about what am I going to say? Where are the weakest parts of my argument? And, we don't like self-criticizing. None of us do. But this is a good experience where you actually criticize where you're weak. But then you think about the other side, even if you disagree, doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter. Remember, I said it's again, right? Doesn't matter. Think from their side. Think what is their argument going to be, even if you completely disagree, even if it's like ethically you don't like it, even if it's like so wrong to you that you're like, you shiver as you say it, right? They're going to say it, okay? Because again, think about what they're going to say and think about how you're going to address that before you even do it. And again, sometimes we don't want to think these things. We don't want to think like someone else who is completely what we think is like so off base, not off base, unethical, wrong, whatever you want to say. But you get yourself into their head and that makes you a great expert witness because you've already addressed what they're going to say before they even say it. You've also shown the jury that you're open and honest. The other thing is if you're not sure about something or there's something that is unclear, admit it is. Just admit it is. Because people can see through if you're lying. And second, you want to be seen to be honest. You want to be honest, but you also want to be seen to be honest. You don't want to give someone a snow job and like blind them with scientific principles. No. You want them to understand what you're saying. And you also want them to understand the limit and the scope. I use that in 609 as well. You want them to understand the scope and limitations of what you're saying. So it's really just thinking through and playing a game. It's role playing. It's like playing a game. Hopefully that helps. I have a hand up. Should we do the hand next?
I
Sabrina.
think so.
Hi, Dr. Coop. Hi, everyone. This has been so informative.
Thank you.
I apologize. I'm just getting through a cold. But I wanted to find out, based on your expert witness testimonies, do you utilize COAs or studies at all to back up your claim?
Yes. I will have a citation or a white paper, anything. I will always have something to back up what I'm saying. I approach this like a scientist. I do not say, trust me, this is right. Now, of course, if I'm being cross-examined on the stand and someone throws something at me and they say, like, you know, what's the atomic radius of this? And I give it out, right? I don't know where I got that from, right? But if everything I present, and I don't know if I still have access to some of my trial PowerPoints here. They're old. I'd have to poke around. But I have all the citations usually at the bottom of each slide. Because by the way, in a trial room, they have LCD screens. You take a PowerPoint with you, not a problem. And you have a little pen like they have on football where you can circle things, right? Or like I do for you guys, sorry, yeah. Yes, you should have citations on every slide. To show that you're an expert witness and you're not just doing this off the top of your head and that you're actually using correct literature. Yes. Does that answer your question, Sabrina?
Yes, absolutely. I'm very familiar and always using COAs to show to patients. And I know that that's very batch and strain specific. It's very, very specific.
Right.
But so I didn't know if that was something that could be utilized, if it just could be utilized in that kind of environment.
It really comes down to, is it appropriate? You don't want to show a COA for something that's irrelevant for what you're talking about in the day. As long as it's relevant, as long as it's appropriate for what you're talking about, whatever literature, whatever you've got to back you up is to show it. You just don't want to try and, you don't want to pretend something's relevant when it's not. And I've seen that. I don't do that. Again, you're going to get caught out. You are wrong. It's unethical. If it's appropriate to bring in and it adds and it helps support what you're saying, yes, absolutely. If it doesn't, absolutely don't have it in there. Does that answer your question, Sabrina? Okay, wonderful.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to the next written one. How long do we have, by the way? It's 9:04 Eastern. How long do we have? Melanie, you're the one in charge. Go on.
Yes. So usually to about 9:30.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I wasn't sure. That's fine. She's got the dogs. I'm fine. I'm fine.
As long as you can go.
Well, I need to stop for a coffee soon and a smoke. Let's have a look. I'll do the next one off the chat. Is that okay? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jay. Do you participate testifying in public hearings for lawmaking? So I recently, yes, bottom line. And I recently just got back from the National Academies. And it's just been published. National Academies has just published a book. I'm all over it. And this was a workshop, a public hearing of the National Academies. And it was to come up with a white paper on appropriate methods to dispose of excess opioids. I know it's not cannabinoids, but it was appropriate methods to dispose of excess opioids. You know, we don't want opioids around the house. How do you get rid of them, right? And there's a whole range of ways, but there's no actual way that's regulated by the FDA, and the FDA would like to come up with some guidelines so that anyone who creates an opioid has to have standard ways of disposing of leftover opioids. So we did this white paper, this workshop, which I'm fully involved with because, again, you're the experts. You might wonder, what am I doing there that I'm an expert on opioids? I was not talking about opioids. I was talking about the four main ways of disposal of them: charcoal, clay, calcium hypochlorite and cross-linking polymers. And I was talking about how those 4 methods work. So even though I'm an expert on opioids, I wasn't actually talking about it. So you've got to think about how you can apply your expertise. And by the way, the FDA has taken that and now will put out grants to actually help with regulation so that there can be regulation for all folks that do opioids. So yes is the answer. And you'll be amazed sometimes of what you can do with your expertise. And how did I get into that? Because another guy I work with suggested my name. Remember, I talked about referrals. He suggested my name. He was like, Coop knows opioids. And I quickly worked out it was nothing to do with opioids. Well, it is, but it's not. But I knew chemistry and I could do that. This is why you don't know what's going to be. Maybe it's what's the difference between an agonist and an antagonist. There may be a need to explain what's the difference between an agonist and an antagonist. It doesn't matter what agonist and antagonist, just what's the difference. You can do that, even though it's not cannabis. So you don't know where you might be needed. So just keep your eyes, ears open for the opportunities. That makes sense? Do you participate? Love how you teach, speak. Okay, thank you. That's not a question. Before the pandemic, we hit a lot of retirement homes. If you're not absolutely, sorry, yes, retirement homes. If you're not comfortable with Rotary clubs, yes. I only use Rotary Club as an example, simply because that's the one that's the one I fell into. There's other places you can go. The more you get the word out, the more you find these people. I do like the Rotary clubs because you do have the business folks within them that do talk to other folks. So first time I'd ever said the Pledge of Allegiance, though, not being American, I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance of the Rotary Club. It was the first time I'd ever done it. And I was like, I'm not even sure I should be saying it as I'm not American, but whatever, I did it. So it was an interesting experience. But as someone who specializes in microbial contamination, huge in cannabis industry and its effects on immunocomp, do you feel that there was a testify under this topic? Absolutely. That is going to be a huge topic moving forward. And I'm sorry I didn't mention that earlier when I was asked directly. Not just microbial contamination, but all contamination. The work of, oh God, what's his name? I've totally spaced on his name. The other English guy who speaks at the symposia that talks about metals and tries to sell you his $3 every time. What's his name?
Robert Thomas.
Robert, yes. His stuff on the metals, that may sound dry, and it is dry. But that stuff is critical because where the cannabis is grown and what heavy metals are in the soil, that is going to be huge, especially as we keep moving forward. So yes, microbial contamination and other contaminations are definitely going to grow. So these are areas that you might think, oh, I don't care about metals in cannabis. Yes, you do, and you should, as should your patients. So that's something that's going to grow. Very much appreciate your knowledge and teaching, Coop. I always learning from you. Have to run. Okay, someone's gone. Okay, fine. All right. Karen, thanks, Dr. Coop. You're always informed on the specifics of the testimony needed. Tell you the basis time to prepare. Okay. Yep, already discussed it. They will prepare you for it. The last trial I did was actually not a federal, it was a state. I went to Annapolis and I was told everything about the trial except the name of the defendant. And it's because he was a high-ranking member of a Baltimore gang who was in a prison and running things out of prison. Crips of the Blood, whatever those gangs are called. And I was not given his name until I got there. because apparently I might have run away if I'd heard his name. So having said all that, though, you are given everything. They will talk to you. They don't want a surprise on the stand, right? They don't want a surprise on the stand. The attorney you're working with will not ask you a question unless they know what you're going to answer, right? This isn't like Law and Order. Do not think it's like Law and Order. Now, on cross-examination, you have no idea what the attorneys from the other side are going to ask you. You've got no idea. And that's the side where you've got to think about where are the biggest holes in my area, things like that. But this is also, I like to spin this around. Your attorney you're working with, your job as an expert witness is to educate him or her. Sometimes I have worked with attorneys and I've not gone to trial. I've educated the attorney on the topic so that they know what questions to ask, say, the other side's expert witness. So the questions here have all been about, are you prepared as an expert witness by the attorneys? I would actually tell you it's more of a partnership. Not only are they educating you and preparing you, you're educating them and preparing them. So rather than worried, oh, I'm not going to be prepared, it's different. View it like a marriage. You're actually going to this as a couple. And that's the way to look at it. So don't be scared they're not going to prepare you. They're going to be scared that you're not preparing them. So please work at it like that. It is like any relationship, and it really is. And the number of times I've sat down with lawyers and said, okay, this is water. This is a hydrogen bonded to an oxygen, because they just don't know the chemistry that, I go through in 603 for you guys. They don't know this. I've done that talk like I do early in 603 to you guys. I've done that talk with attorneys many, many times. So they don't just prepare you, you also prepare them. That good? Dr. Coop, thank you, Dr. Coop. It's been very informed. Job. Oh, okay. That's the end of the questions in the chat, I think, unless I missed something, Jay.
I think you might have missed one from Heidi.
Okay, where's that one, Jay?
Heidi asked, I hope I didn't miss it, but how do you even approach the conversation with attorneys?
Okay, yeah, I think I saw that and I jumped over. Heidi, sorry to have missed your comment. Okay. You can cold email. Not a problem. As I said earlier, there are these things that video. And by the way, I'll send that video. Melanie, shall I send that link to you by email?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. There's ways in there that tell you about all these different ways of getting your expert witness on their directory list. After you've given a talk at an organization, or you're given a talk at one of these, I say Rotary, but you understand what I mean when I say that. When you're at the conferences, when you're at whatever experience you're at, just approach them. It really is a matter of, if you're sat there and you're thinking, who am I? Why should they be interested in me? Little me. Okay, slap yourself around the head and remind yourself that you've got a master's in medical cannabis science and therapeutics. You're one of the most educated people on the planet in cannabis. Almost nobody has the breadth of knowledge to you, that knows the legal aspects, the pharmacology, the history, all the courses you've done. Almost nobody knows all these things. I don't know all the clinical stuff, right, that Dr. Buckley and Dr. Sarah teach you. I don't know it all. You're better educated than I am. Okay? You walk up to those folks and you introduce yourselves and you tell them who you are and you tell them that you want to help and you want to and why you want to help. That's how you do it. Okay? We all have insecurities. And, you know, so do I. I know, you know, you've got used to me being like this, right? But the very fact I can say these things is because I have my own insecurities as well. And I have to tell myself these things. And after 50, how many years, how old am I? Doesn't matter. After 50 odd years of life, if somebody doesn't want to talk to you, whose fault is that? Who does that impact? Are they even going to remember? No. Move on to the next person. It's their problem, not yours. You only need one of these attorneys to say, you know what? Let's keep in touch. Here's a card. And you follow up. Because you only need one of them to do it. The ones that don't, you know, are they worth your time? No. So we don't want rejection. None of us do. We all want to be liked. But as I get older, I want to be respected. I'm not as concerned about being liked anymore. I want to be respected. And that's the way to view it, is you guys are some of the most educated folks in cannabis in the world. Approach these lawyers as if you are. Be confident. Now, of course, you know, you can be overconfident, I know. But you wouldn't be asking these questions if you're the sort of person that's too much. You wouldn't be asking these questions. So this is where I'm coming from, is be confident, because you guys damn well should be.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coop.
Oh, you know, you guys, you know, Melanie, if I can just finish one thing, is,
Yes, absolutely.
you know, a mixture of first years and second years. The second years have known me a bit longer than the first years. First years have got to know me a little bit. When I said earlier that I wasn't involved in this program, when I turned to the dean, the old dean, Dean Eddington, and said to her, you know, yeah, that pharmacology is awful. We need to fix it. I could have walked away at that point and left Dr. Sarah to do it. And this is before Dr. Johnson even got involved, right? I could have left this alone and let Dr. Sarah just do it by herself. Ask her sometime what actually happened. Is I barged my way in and I said, we've got to make this work because we really care about this. So I took this program on with Dr. Sarah and Dr. Johnson, mentoring Dr. Johnson, because I care about this field and I care about you guys. And all I want to ask you guys to do is use the benefit of my experience. Use what I'm saying to you to educate you, the rest of the population, more importantly, the next generation. But I want the next generation to be better than us. There's a lot of things we could improve on, right? So I want the next generation to be better than us. All I really want. It's why I'll write all of you letters of recommendation for jobs and positions, all of you. I'll tell you this at graduation, but I'll tell you now as well. I'll write you all letters of recommendation because I want you all to succeed. You're part of the family. And I really appreciate being asked to talk here tonight. And I hope I've helped you all not only think about how to be an expert witness, to give you the confidence that you can actually do it. I can do it. If I can do it, you guys can do it. Seriously, I'm nothing special. I come home, play with Wanda and the two dogs. That's what I do for my life. So if I can do it, you guys can do it. Okay. You've just got to practice and learn and just think about the audience. You're not going to be me. You are not going to present like me, nor should you. You're going to present like you. But there's things you can learn, and you just got to think about the audience and think about other folks. You're going to get stuff wrong. You can't get in someone else's mind, but at least make that attempt to think about how to present it. And I hope my words have been taken while I see a little chat coming up. So I'm going to shut up now because I need coffee. I'll hand back to you guys.
Standing ovation is what I want to do right now. Thank you, Dr. Coop.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you very much. Is there any, before we go, because I've got 8 minutes left then, if we go to 9:30 Eastern, is there any other last questions about anything? I can talk about expert witness. That little video, by the way, is very good. That YouTube video I'm going to send to you, Melanie, is actually very, very good. They're a bit wooden as they're talking, but it's very good. Is there anything else anyone would like to ask, or is there anything about the program you'd like me to send back to Dr. Johnson, Dr. Sarah? Is there anything at all any of you would like me to hand back? I see a hand. Daniel, is that you, Daniel?
Worse, Doc, come on. I'm not gonna let you get out of here without this. Hey, first of all, are you doing hallucinogens? I didn't even look to see who the professor is.
It's me, Chad, and it's me. It's Andy, Chad, and Leah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Are you gonna be involved?
Oh yeah.
Okay, but then I won't blow smoke up your ass right now. But I will just tell you, I respect you as much as any human that I think I've ever met. Thank you. Yeah. And I always said, I don't know if anybody ever shares papers. In one of my papers, I responded, I said, one of my dreams would be to get Dr. Coop, Dr. Boone, Dr. Johnson, and the four of us go on a cross-country Fear in Las Vegas trip. I know Dr. Chad knows how to manufacture.
Gotta film that one.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
Dr. Boone, I don't know if he spoke at the first year symposium, but he taught in the MCST 616, the advocacy course, and definitely the second year symposium. He's an entrepreneur. He is fantastic, and he gives a wonderful talk about his 5-6 failed businesses and things. He gives a wonderful talk. He's fantastic. If he doesn't taught you the first years yet, he will. He's there. He's a wonderful human being. He's fantastic. Yes, I'm teaching psychedelics. We're currently putting the mini videos together and everything. So I think the first module is ready. That's Dr. Sarah, and Dr. Johnson and I are working on it, on the other parts of it as we speak, actually. So, well, not now, but you know what I mean. We're working on the videos. It's going to be a similar sort of pattern to 602, 60, the usual basic science approach for our modules, and more Leah, Sarah approach for her modules.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Any other questions from any of you?
I have a question, Dr. Coop, but I'm laughing because my daughter hears you in the background and she recognizes your voice from the lecture. And she said, "Is that the guy that says CBD a lot?"
CBD.
So yeah, they always hear me listening to the lectures, but my question, this is my final semester. I'm second year, and I realized that I didn't really get involved in a lot of things the first year. I just kind of got started with MCSA this year and really getting to know the other people in the cohort. So the last semester, what can we do to maximize the next steps, making the right connections and being able to get the right recommendations and things like that?
First thing I'd suggest you do is the MCSA, which, by the way, we support, but we're not part of, obviously, right? The alumni part of the MCSA is growing. That is something I really want to support.
Yes.
Good. So that is really one thing I really want to support, because once you're part of this family, you're part of this family. And I really want to support that. So to answer your question is, first of all, make sure you get involved, keep involved with the MCSA, so keep involved with the alumni so you're still part of the family. That's the first thing I'd say. Second thing is, you said you haven't really got involved. I would attend these meetings, get involved with your classmates here. These are going to be your peers. We're here to help you, but you really want to be able to interact with your peers here from all these different backgrounds. So I'd get involved with the MCA and keep involved with the Alumni Association. That's what I say. And what I'd actually suggest is, I'm telling you from my point of view, but I'm not a student. I see 24 something fellow students here. I'm sure they have far better advice for you than I do. So if I was you, I would ask your 24 colleagues here what to do. They're your colleagues. Learn off each other. Sound good?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, ask each other. I don't have all the answers. And at some point, I'm not going to be here anymore, right? You guys are going to have to take over. So help each other, because we need someone to take over when we're no longer doing it. And that's going to be you guys. Okay. I really enjoy interacting with you guys. Hopefully this wasn't a complete waste of your time. For second years, the next time I see you is graduation, right? It is. Fantastic. First years, next time we see you, we'll be at the next symposium. And by that point, you know who I am. Because at the first year symposium, none of you know who I am, really. I'm just like this little guy who jumps up and down. You're like, who is he? And the next symposium, you actually know who I am, along with Chad. And look forward to seeing it. The second years, we have the date for the graduation. Has that been given out yet to you guys? Do you know? For the second year?
19 or 14 May.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. I think it's the 14th of May. We look forward to that. You'll hear a lot more about the graduation. There is a symposium like during the morning, and we do graduation in the afternoon. It is absolutely my most favorite part, because who do you think reads out all your names?
I hope you.
A certain person reads out all your names. It is fantastic. I usually have to take a break in the middle, but I read out all your names, and it's wonderful to see your families. And I'm sure you can work out that I keep a really dignified, no, do I not? Everyone celebrates everyone. It's a wonderful celebration, and it's one of the great things to see you guys from that very first symposium, or even from your applications, and then see this graduation with your families, which is absolutely fantastic. All right, I've been enough down today. Hopefully this has been useful for you. If you ever need me again for anything, I'm more than willing to do anything, but I tend to hog the limelight, so I won't. It should be about you guys, right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coop. I think this was incredible. It was way beyond my expectations for knowledge there. So we really appreciate your time, and we hope that you come back to join our future events for MCSA.
Give me a topic and I'll talk about it, as long as it's something I know about. And Melanie, I'll send you that link to the YouTube so you can send it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And this video will be recorded. It'll be shared on our website as well as our YouTube. So for folks who want to share it, folks who missed it, you can definitely check it out. And our next advocacy subcommittee meeting is next Thursday at the same time. So if you're interested in getting involved in advocacy, definitely do. If you're a first-year student and you are going to be choosing your elective, definitely look into the advocacy course. Highly recommend that, as well as 609 with Dr. Coop. Very incredible courses. So thank you again for your time tonight, and I hope you guys have a great spring semester. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
See you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Coop.
Thank you.
Anytime. Really, anytime.